What's up, Broncos country? You guys won't believe what just happened. Remember that guy Sean Payton always put on the field when he needed someone reliable? That wide receiver who didn't make much noise but was always there when the team needed him. Well, he just became available on the market, and this could mean a golden opportunity for our orange and blue franchise. I'm talking about Humphrey, folks. And before you say anything, I know many of you have mixed opinions about him. But listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this situation could completely change the course of our season. The Giants just released the guy they themselves signed back in March of this year. That's right, Denver Broncos family. He left here, went to New York, and now he's back on the market. And the burning question is, should the Broncos bring back this familiar face? Let's get to the facts. Broncos country. Back in March this year, when free agency was heating up, Humphrey signed a one-year contract with the Giants. At the time, a lot of people here in Denver were divided. Some fans thought it was an unnecessary loss. Others breathed a sigh of relief, thinking they'd finally have room for more explosive talents on the roster. But here's the point many didn't realize. Sean Payton always had a special fondness for players like Humphrey. It's no coincidence that he played 34 consecutive games for the Broncos over the past 2 seasons. 34 games, people. That doesn't happen by accident in the NFL. During his time in Denver, Humphrey may not have been the most spectacular guy statistically speaking, but anyone who understands football knows there are roles that go far beyond the numbers. He was that type of player Sean Payton knew exactly how to utilize. A tall, strong guy at 6'4" and 225 pounds who could do the dirty work when necessary. In the 2024 season, before leaving the Broncos, he recorded 31 receptions for 293 yards and 1 touchdown. Modest numbers? Maybe. But the reality is, Humphrey was never hired to be the number one in the offense. He was a piece of a much bigger puzzle that Sean Payton was putting together. What catches my attention most in this whole situation is the timing. The Giants released Humphrey right when teams are making final cuts to get down to the 53-man roster. This means New York preferred to bet on young talents or other veterans, making it clear they didn't see Humphrey as a fundamental part of their plans. But here's the interesting detail. When Humphrey left Denver in March, the Broncos offered him a contract to stay. That's right, family. Sean Payton wanted to keep the player on the roster, but he chose to try his luck in New York. Now, with this new situation, are the doors still open for a possible return? Let's coldly analyze the current situation of our wide receiver roster. We have Courtland Sutton as our established number one, Jerry Jeudy, who was traded to Miami, and a group of promising young guys fighting for positions. Marvin Mims Jr. showed brilliant flashes last season, but is still developing. We also have some interesting guys like Brandon Johnson and other young talents. The question is, where would Humphrey fit in this current scenario? Sean Payton has always valued players who know the system, who know exactly what their role is and execute without questioning. Humphrey is exactly that type of athlete. He won't steal anyone's spotlight, but when called upon, he delivers what's expected of him. Before we continue analyzing this situation, if you're true Broncos country and want to stay on top of all the moves from our franchise, subscribe to the channel now. Hit the notification bell, because whenever something important involving our orange and blue team happens, you'll be the first to know. Let's continue our analysis. Now, let's get to what really matters for us Denver Broncos fans. Does this possible return of Humphrey make sense from a strategic standpoint? I believe it does, and I'll explain why. First point, system experience. Humphrey spent 2 complete seasons absorbing everything Sean Payton had to teach. He knows the routes, understands the adjustments, knows how to behave in specific game situations. This is immense value, especially when you're trying to develop consistent chemistry in the offense. Second point, tactical versatility. Humphrey can play different positions on the field. He has the size to be a red zone target, has the strength to make important blocks on running plays, and has reliable hands for those crucial third down receptions. He's the type of player who doesn't show up much on ESPN, but coaches love to have on the roster. Third point, quiet leadership. In the 2 years he spent here, Humphrey never created problems in the locker room, never publicly complained about his limited role, always maintained an exemplary professional posture. This is fundamental when you're building a winning culture. But let's be honest too, Broncos country. There are arguments against this possible signing. Humphrey is already 26 years old. He's no longer at the age to discover hidden potential. His ceiling, athletically speaking, isn't very high. And with the salary cap always tight in the NFL, every dollar invested needs to bring maximum return. Furthermore, bringing back a player who already left once could send a confusing message to the rest of the roster. The young receivers who are fighting to earn space might interpret this as a lack of confidence from the organization in their development. From a financial standpoint, Humphrey would probably come at a very accessible price. He won't break the Broncos' bank and could be a smart addition in case any of our main receivers get injured during the season. It's always good to have a plan B that you know works. The reality is that Sean Payton has a track record of working very well with players who completely understand their role on the team. During his successful years with the New Orleans Saints, he always had these role players who made the difference in decisive moments. Humphrey fits perfectly into this profile. Another thing we can't ignore is the opponent knowledge factor. Humphrey spent 2 seasons studying all the AFC West teams, knows the defensive tendencies of our main rivals. This could be an important differential, especially in a division as competitive as ours. But there's also the ego question. Would Humphrey be willing to return to the same role he had before? Going to the Giants might have been an attempt by him to get more opportunities, more targets, more protagonism. Coming back to Denver, he would probably return to the same function as before. Let's imagine some possible scenarios. Denver Broncos family. First scenario, the Broncos decide not to mess with the current receiver roster and bet totally on developing the young talents already on the roster. It's a risky approach, but one that could work if everyone evolves as expected. Second scenario, Sean Payton decides to bring Humphrey back as an insurance policy, knowing he is someone reliable if needed. It would be a conservative move, but one that would give more depth to the roster. Third scenario, and perhaps the most interesting, Humphrey returns with a slightly different role, maybe more involved in specific plays, taking advantage of all the experience he gained. Sean Payton is creative enough to find new ways to use a known player. What intrigues me most in this whole situation is the timing. Why did the Giants release Humphrey right now? Was there some adaptation problem to the system? Or did they simply identify younger talents with greater growth potential? For us, Broncos country, this could represent a unique opportunity to strengthen the roster without spending much. Humphrey knows the house, knows his teammates, knows the system. The adaptation would be practically instantaneous, but it also needs to be analyzed from the perspective of young player development. Bringing Humphrey back could limit opportunities for early career receivers who are seeking space to grow and show their potential. The decision, in the end, will depend a lot on the philosophy Sean Payton wants to implement for this season. If the focus is on stability and reliability, Humphrey makes sense. If the bet is on potential and development, maybe it's better to keep the current roster. One thing we can't forget is how this possible return would be received in the locker room. Humphrey was always respected by his teammates during his previous time in Denver. He wasn't the most talented guy on the team, but he was professional, dedicated, and always ready when called upon. Courtland Sutton, our #1 receiver, probably wouldn't see any problem with Humphrey's return. On the contrary, having another reliable option in the offense would only make his job easier, taking some of the pressure off his shoulders. The young receivers might have varied reactions. Some might see it as an opportunity to learn from someone more experienced. Others might see it as another obstacle in the fight for playing time. How Sean Payton manages this dynamic will be fundamental. From the quarterback's perspective, whoever is commanding our offense, having Humphrey available means having a reliable safety valve. He may not be the fastest or most athletic guy, but he'll be in the right place at the right time, and his hands will rarely let you down. Now, Broncos country, let's be fair in our analysis. Humphrey isn't the only option available in the free agent market. There are other veteran receivers who were recently released and could bring different contributions to our franchise. But here's this competitive advantage. Humphrey already knows our system, while any other player would need weeks or even months. To fully adapt to Sean Payton's philosophy, Humphrey could contribute immediately. Additionally, from a financial perspective, he would probably come at a very accessible price. Players who have been released twice in a few months generally don't have much bargaining power in salary negotiations. The question is whether Sean Payton believes he can extract more from Humphrey's potential than he managed in previous seasons, or if he sees the player as someone who has already reached his ceiling and doesn't have much more to offer. Folks, we've reached the moment to reflect on this whole situation. Humphrey represents a safe, predictable choice without big risks or big rewards. It's the type of move that might not excite fans much, but veteran coaches like Sean Payton know makes a difference over a 17-game season. The NFL is a business where details make the difference. Having players who know exactly their role, who execute without questioning, who keep the locker room united, all of this has value, even if it doesn't show up in statistics. On the other hand, our franchise is in a transition moment, trying to build something lasting for the future. Betting on young talents, giving opportunities to developing players, this is also part of the process of building a dynasty. The question that remains is, what do the Broncos need more at this moment? Stability and reliability, or growth potential and discovery of new talents? Honestly, family, I believe there's room for both approaches. Humphrey could return in a specific limited role without hurting young player development, but offering a solid option when necessary. So, Broncos country, after all this analysis, what's your opinion? Do you think Sean Payton should bring Humphrey back, or do you prefer betting totally on the young talents already on the roster? I'm genuinely curious to know what you think about this possibility. Humphrey isn't a player who sparks passion, either good or bad. He's functional, reliable, predictable. Sometimes that's exactly what a team needs. The Denver Broncos family has always had strong opinions about franchise decisions, and this shouldn't be different. Some will say he already gave what he had to give. Others will argue that system knowledge is worth gold in the NFL. What I can say is that Sean Payton doesn't make impulsive decisions. If he decides to bring Humphrey back, it's because he sees real value in what the player can offer. If he decides to do nothing, it's because he believes the current roster has everything it needs to be competitive. One thing is certain. This season will be crucial for defining our franchise's direction in the coming years. Every decision, no matter how small it seems, could have significant impact on our success. So leave it in the comments. Are you favorable to Humphrey's possible return? Do you think he still has something to offer the Broncos? Or do you prefer to see Sean Payton betting on new faces? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the analysis. Share it with other Denver Broncos fans you know. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's the time. Whenever important movement involving our orange and blue franchise happens, you'll find out first here. Broncos country, we continue together on the journey toward our bigger goal, bringing another title to Denver. Regardless of who's on the roster, what's important is that everyone rows in the same direction. Until the next video, family, go Broncos.